they'd have the authority now to convert all of those funds into a resettlement program. And if you saw the video that I saw this morning of Mayor Adams in New York City talking about what's happening to his city right now, he's saying that this illegal immigration is destroying his city. This provision, if we allow it to pass, will enable that. It's very disappointing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hagerty. Senator Merkley.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all of your testimony and expertise. I want to start on the topic of Honduras. President Castro presents a new opportunity to address corruption. In the past, Honduras had a commission, CC, that is the commission known as the International Commission Against Corruption and Impunity. And it was very effective in bringing to Honduras many of the tools of investigation and prosecution to hold top-level corruption accountable. And that is quite contrary to kind of the tradition of impunity that has characterized so many governments in Central America. The previous president dismantled that because of basically many of his colleagues were getting investigated, his family was getting investigated. We, the United States, have expressed a lot of support for supporting President Castro in taking on corruption. But right now, that process of reestablishing CC is stalled. So what's going on? And let me just add how important this is. The drug trafficking corruption extends often throughout the political system. It infiltrates the police, it infiltrates the military. As one president in Central America told me, the drug structures extend right down to the street level where virtually every business pays protection money. But if it's not addressed at the top, then it just isn't going to change. And the type of oppression that comes from these criminal enterprises certainly is a big factor in driving people desperately to the north. So why is it that the work to reestablish CC is stalled, and what can be done about it? And Secretary Nichols or Director Escobari, would love to get your insights on that.
Thanks very much. So the commission that existed in Honduras was called MAXI. That was its abbreviation, its acronym in Spanish. That went away under the previous administration of Juan Orlando Hernandez, and President Castro has been working to establish a new commission in partnership with the United Nations in Honduras. They've signed a memorandum of understanding for the creation of this new anti-corruption commission, and they are working on the technical details with the United Nations. I recently spoke to my counterpart in the United Nations, and he assured me that the UN is committed to doing its part to establish this new commission that will aid Honduran institutions to address the issue of corruption. I would note that the ongoing process of electing a new Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General in Honduras is also important because they are the key partners for any international assistance on anti-corruption efforts.
And just to add, Senator, we are also very hopeful that Honduras will fulfill its electoral promise of starting CC. And our understanding is that some of the stalling is around the level of independence provided to this institution, which we think is crucial. But USAID is prepared to make resources available to support CC once it's established, and that's beyond the support of INL and state.
I just want to emphasize how important it is to continue to support the efforts to take on corruption. Without that, many of the programs and efforts that we're undertaking will take us nowhere. I want to turn to safeguarding environmental defenders. Of the 5 countries that account for 80% of the murders of human rights defenders, 4 of them are in Latin America: Colombia, Mexico, Brazil, Honduras. This, of course, is devastating to those who are attempting to defend both established environmental preserves, those who are attempting to defend indigenous rights. And there is an appropriation for a USAID advisor for indigenous people, so I'll direct this to you, Director Escobari. How are those efforts going to help assist the frontline defenders, environmental and human rights defenders who are being murdered, to make them, to give them greater protection and work with their governments to give them greater protection?
No, thank you, Senator, for bringing attention to this issue. And you're correct that Latin America and the Caribbean is the most dangerous region to be an environmental defender. So USAID is working with environmental leaders to protect them from intimidation and violence from armed groups, and is also providing alternative economic options for those who often are forced to engage in illicit activities. Our work, and many times in conjunction with the governments that we work with, is to really strengthen the judicial system so that these crimes can be brought to justice, but also creating protective mechanisms, sometimes community-based and sometimes individualized, and strengthening those protection mechanisms within the countries, often persuading governments to put more funds into them. But we will continue that work because we realize it's incredibly important.
Well, thank you. I'm pleased that the Appropriations Committee here, the SFOPS Committee, State and Foreign Affairs, has continued to see this as well worthy of funding. I think it's incredibly important that we stand with those folks who are attempting to protect human rights, indigenous communities, and the environment. Thank you much.
Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.